Welcome everyone to the December 2024 edition of the North Precinct Advisory Council. We're glad you're here. I'm Katie Dwyer, the current president of NPAC, and just really happy that you all got here. We have a really uplifting, positive speaker and message for this edition. It's always nice if we can end our year as we enter a wide range of holidays that are coming up with some really good news about things that are working well. So that's great. I want to make sure that everybody knows that next month, January of 2025, it happens that the first Wednesday is New Year's Day. And we don't think most of you want to show up here on that day. So we have officially moved it to the following week. So we'll meet on Wednesday, January 8th. So if you mark your calendar for that, that would be great. Our speaker in January will be Ann Davison, who is the city attorney. So we're looking forward to that. Looking ahead in February, we hope to have Representative Lauren Davis, state legislator here, and we have some exciting other events coming up. Hang on, let me just hear. Great. And with that, I don't think that I need to spend any more time. Let's turn it over to our speaker so that we can go ahead and get started. Let me give you the co-host so you can share your screen. You should be able to do that now, Dr. Bryant. And there's your spotlight. And you are on. Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you. So, good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Felisa Bryant. I'm the executive director from the IF Project. And so, who is the IF Project? Our mission is the IF Project is a gender responsive nonprofit organization that prioritizes the experiences of those impacted by incarceration. Through truth telling, empathy, and awareness, we heal, empower, and transform ourselves, our families, and our communities. Our vision: we witness the power of story to address trauma, educate the community, and encourage youth in prevention programs. Okay, that's great. But who is the IF Project? And so the IF Project, our origin started in around 2008, when at that time it was Detective Kim Baguki. She has since retired from SPD, and she came into the Washington Women's Correction Center for Women as part of the Girl Scouts Beyond Bars program. And while she was there, she posed the question to the women: if there was something that someone could have said or done that would have changed the path that led you here, what would it have been? For whatever reason, one of the women that was there, her name was Renata, that question really resonated with her. And so she took that question back with her to her living unit and began to handwrite that question out. And over the next month, she would hand that question out over to people just, as she came across them, and they would answer that question. And by the time that Kim came back that following month, Renata was able to present her with over 80 responses to that question. And they weren't just one word answers. We had literally paragraphs and pages. We had essays. And that's how the IF Project was born. And so the premise behind the IF Project at that time, and the themes that were emerging from the question that came about at that time, was that the women wanted to take their experiences and share them with the youth, because they did not want the youth to follow their footsteps. And so that's how the IF Project began to be born. However, over the years, as we continued to ask that question, we discovered various different things that kept coming out. And so right here is what we have. All of our programs are birthed from that question. If there was something that someone could have said or done to change the path that led you here, what would it have been? The different themes that we found that kept coming out were things about unconditional love, home and safety, forgiveness, even meditation. And so we began to address those things, and then we began to notice that, certain themes fell into certain different programs that we could develop. And so from that one question, we were able to develop 5 different programs that we offer in the program in the women's prisons today. And that's our health and wellness curriculum. We have a creative writer series. We have a prep program. And our prep program, well, I'll tell you a little bit more about what each program is. Our reset program and our graduate reflections class. And so in our health and wellness program, they're all 8-week sessions. And we focus on things such as life planning for physical, emotional, and mental health needs. In our creative writers series, it's also an 8-week session, and that picks up where our writing intensive leaves off. Our writing intensive is what we call the core question. Again, that if question. And so the creative writers series again explores themes such as love and forgiveness, rage and shame, grief and loss, art and beauty, courage and fear. Our prep program is our personal reintegration education plan. And that's what that's really what our signature bread and butter is. That's our reintegration transition plan. I want to point out that I use the word reintegration versus reentry. Anybody can re-enter a room. What we want is for our participants and our women and youth who are returning home after incarceration, we want them to reintegrate back into their communities, back into society. And so it's their transition plan. So we cover things such as housing, transportation, access to resources, healthy relationships. We go over stigma, family reunification, personal responsibility. We do employment readiness, as well as provide access to education and financial literacy. Um, our reset program is a new program that we've started this year. Well, we've been planning for it this year. We're launching it out next year. And what that is it's a continuation of the prep program. The prep program is offered inside to the women who are still incarcerated. The reset program is, like I said, a continuation of the prep program. So you've been released from prison and now you're out in the community. Let's say the plan that you made while you were incarcerated is maybe some components of it need to be changed. Maybe you weren't able to live where you thought you were going to be able to live. Maybe the bus that you thought that you were going to take to work no longer goes that way, or so we modify that plan to fit the here and now. And so that's what, those are the 5 different programs that we have birthed from that question. The other thing that we have this year that is also derived from, let me back up just a little bit. In making all of our programs and the programs that we offer, we have an advisory council. Our advisory council are the women that we serve. And so we don't develop programs without making sure that we have their input, their background, because who best to tell us what they need than them themselves. And so this year, I really took it personally and I wanted to know, what is it that IF can do for you? How can we stand in the gap for you? How can we help you to be successful? And so the big theme that kept coming out is community. We're coming out of COVID, and we've been so isolated, and, we're doing everything online. And what the women are craving is community. They're craving connection. And so this year, we opened up our We Thrive Engagement Center. And We Thrive stands for We Engage in Transformational Healing, Reclaiming Our Individual Voices of Excellence. And this again came from the thoughts from the advisory council of the women that we serve. And so through the engagement center, we're offering different things, different support groups, such as, I never thought of it before, but the women say they want a support group surrounding menopause. never thought about that before. We're going to be offering parenting classes. We're also going to be offering NA and AA classes. We're also going to be offering digital literacy classes. So it's going to be an engagement center where women can just come and just be supported in an environment that is safe and just what they want and what they need. Um, okay, and so how do we do all of this? We do all of this through in-person or virtual facilitation. Again, like I says, we are in both of the prisons, the women's prisons, that's in Mission Creek as well as in Gig Harbor. We do community screenings and panels for the general public. We do train the trainer implementation models. So we've been to New Hampshire, California, Arizona, Africa, where we presented our programming, and they're currently running our programming there. Community and resource networking, such as today, community events for participants, as well as we have speaker team workshops where we speak in youth detention centers, schools, truancy workshops, other prisons, and jails. And so I just like to put this in here. This is our trauma-informed organizational statement. And so basically that just says is that leading with a trauma-informed filter, the IF project team helps participants to identify and understand their triggers and the actions to take to redirect adverse reactions. We use motivational interviewing, which provides participants with opportunities to think deeply about making choices for their lives. They are not told what to do, but rather taught strategies to circumvent systematic oppression, address traumas, and learn soft skills that help them respond and communicate in real life situations. With peer support, participants become more resilient and develop ways of maneuvering through systems that previously held them back from addressing past traumas. They also benefit from continued reinforcement via coaching and support from the program's resource manager. And essentially what this says is we do not want to do any more harm. We're also aware of secondary trauma. And so we're just very intentional in everything that we do. And so I just like to say that. I just like to put that out there. Another thing that we do and how our programs are and why they are successful is because we use the strengths-based case management model, which is based on the strengths of the participant. It helps them build their self-esteem and also empowers them. And it also keeps the case manager from becoming an adversary. It's participant driven because it allows the participants to integrate their own resources and skills. And it also takes into account the participants' family, friends, community, home environment, and other resources that they have that they have access to. And it also aids in the process of building a strong, positive foundation for a unique reentry plan. So I always have to put this out here. Yes, we are always looking for volunteers. We are also always looking for donations. And so any donations that are given will help fund programs that ease the transition for a formerly incarcerated individual to their new lives. Mentorship, case management, education, job training, and mental and behavioral health services are also provided. Gifts will also help provide the tangible resources such as rent, access to public transportation, work clothes, and also groceries. Any gifts will also help to fund the IF Project's We Thrive Engagement Center. Again, where I said we'll hold community workshops, case management meetings, career readiness, as well as provide a safe space for women and girls who are transitioning after incarceration. I will also add to this, we just opened the engagement center in July. And then in October, again, because of need, we also took another room out where we opened up our clothing closet, which we're renaming as our Career Readiness Center. And so as you see, the need is there. the needs of the community are there, and so we're responding to the community's needs. And so also here are just some examples of different amounts of different things that will help support someone who is reintegrating back into society, such as, $125 will cover grocery store cards. $65 covers monthly bus passes. $130 will help provide new work gear, such as, clothing, boots, and other supplies. A lot of women who are coming out are going into the trades. So they need, the safety gear and the safety boots and stuff like that. And then $75 subsidizes the purchase of goods to set up a house for our recently released members, such as towels, dishes, utensils, toiletries, pillows, etc. So, how can you donate? Ooh, where'd my screen go? So if anybody would like to donate, there is a QR code right there, as well as the website if anybody would like to donate. Um, and then I also would like to just leave with a few participant comments about how our members feel or how our participants feel, how we've been able to serve them. And so one IF project member said the IF project helped me get a job, also helped me with clothing, gave me encouragement to want and to do better. The IF project lets me know they are there for me in my struggles and my successes. I couldn't have done it without them. Another one, Katie said, if I could tell people one thing about the IF project, it would be that they make the impossible possible. They helped me get my life back. Monica said, the IF project gave me the foundation to believe in myself and what is possible. And Tanya said, the opportunity to be useful and to use all that I have learned and gained to add to my community. I need for my time when it's over to be over and not to be held against me once it's over. I need gainful employment with a living wage. I need the opportunity to contribute. I need to be seen for who I am now, not who I used to be. I need the opportunity to actually be who I'm becoming. And I add my own comment to there. I've been introduced as Dr. Felisa Bryant. What you don't know is that I am also formally known as inmate number 719800. The IF project helped lay that foundation for me to become the person who I am today. The doctorate came post prison, not before. And it was because of programs like the IF Project that gave me that confidence, that allowed me to address that gunk that was buried deep down inside of me by allowing me to answer that if question. If those two words, those two letters, excuse me, are very powerful letters. If, if only. There's thousands of possibilities to answer that. And that is what the If project allowed me to do and allows others to do as well. And so I just like to end with, are there any questions or comments?
So what I typically will do is scroll through the chat and just see first if we have any there so I can read them out loud to everybody. And everybody do use the chat feature. Feel free to put anything in there. Nancy's asking, how many participants can IF admit to the programs? What proportion of the prison population take advantage of them?
Oh, goodness. I would about a good half of the prison population takes advantage of the classes. Last year, we were able to serve 486 participants, and those were unduplicated participants. If you count the number of touches per participant, we've had over 12,000 touches that we made throughout the year. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question? I missed that.
I think you got it. It was what proportion of the prison population take advantage.
Okay.
How do you track success over time? And have you documented a reduction in recidivism over time for people who participate?
How do we document? And have we documented? I will say full transparency. It is not until within the last 2 to 3 years that we have been documenting and basically tracking. Um, for the first 7 years, from 2008 to roughly 2017, the IF project was operating under the Seattle Police Foundation. And so tracking wasn't as needed, I guess you could say. It was before my time, so I really don't want to, it just was not done at that time. And then over the years, it's slowly been developed. We do have some numbers, but it isn't, like I said, within the last 2 years that we've really been documenting and really tracking. And the measurements that we use an internal measurement. Um, we know that statistics say that it's, roughly about 3 years before somebody is fully reintegrated back into society. And if they're going to recidivate, that it'll be within those 3 years. However, within the state of Washington, recidivism does not count those individuals who go back to jail. They just count those who return to prison. So the numbers are skewed. And so it's kind of so we go by states numbers in the way that they would like us to track, but we also use an internal scale that is really based upon the individual and their individual successes, especially when we do case management. Case management, it's not a cookie cutter for all. Um, Me getting up every morning may be a challenge for somebody else. And so we don't want to put that same measurement against the individual who may have trouble getting up every morning. It may be a success for them to get up every morning, and that needs to be praised. And so we are starting to track. Long way of saying yes and no, we are tracking.
Okay, and as someone else also asked about the tracking, it sounds like that's something you've recognized as important to do in order to demonstrate the
Yes,
viability of your program.
yes.
Sarah asks, does the IF project take clothing donations for their career closet? I have a lot of cute stuff that I would love to donate.
Absolutely, yes, please. We are also taking volunteers. Like I said, our community engagement center. If you have a talent, a trade, anything that you'd like to share with our women, a support group, please get in contact with me. Let me know. Come on in. And by the way, we're located in the old SVI building off of 22nd and Jackson.
So for someone to reach out and donate material or clothing, whatever, they should get your email. Is that right? Or
Yes,
can you put that in
yes,
the chat and we'll include that in the
yes,
minutes? That would be
yes, I
great.
can.
Okay. Um, and while you're typing, Cheryl asks, are there other programs the IF project regularly collaborates with? Also, are donations your primary funding source, or are there grants, etc.?
Um, the okay. Yes, there are other programs. We are in turn, well, it's another program as well as other grants. We are receiving two grant recipients from SPD itself. One of them is with the Before the Badge program. I am proud to say, and I say it with honor, um, because I like to say that we are training partners with the Seattle Police Department in terms of the recruits with the Before the Badge program. And during that, what we do in that program, it's divided into two parts. So the first part, or the morning part, is what we call our gender responsive series. And so what we do is we talk about what does it mean to be gender responsive in policing, from, again, gender responsive for women and those who identify. And then the second part of that is what we call the collective. And that's where we discuss perceptions and biases. And it's very powerful because we invite individuals in from the community who have lived experience, but the recruits don't know that. And so, as we're talking about perceptions and biases, and the members of the community introduce themselves as who they are and what they do in the community, in the beginning, that's how the cadets, know that's how they know the community members. And at the end, we do a big reveal where we introduce ourselves, similarly to how I did it today, where I reintroduced myself and said I was formerly known as inmate number 719-800. That's what the community members do. And then we also count up the number of years in the room. Um, it's very powerful because not it humanizes not only formerly incarcerated individuals, but it also takes away that us versus them when we're talking about police. And it takes away their uniform so that we just see them. And so that's what we do for the Before the Badge program. The other part that we have with the Seattle Police Department is through their COSUP program, and that's a substance utilization grant. And basically what we do is individuals who are re-entering into society that are releasing through the Helen B. Ratcliffe Work Release Center. Um, we provide supportive services to them if they are involved in well, in a nutshell, yes, we provide supportive services to them as they are reentering to give them that extra support that they need. And so that's the other part of the grant that we do with the Seattle department. We have individual contracts both with the Department of Corrections as well as DCYF. And what else do we do? And then the rest of our funding is through private donations.
Great. Okay, so, okay, Nancy asked, what are your funding sources and how many employees are there?
There are 4 employees. We are a mighty but very strong crew, but we do have 6 independent contractors that serve as our facilitators that help facilitate some of the programs within the youth or the adult prisons.
Okay, great. Joe asks, are there retraining programs for jobs to reintegrate into the working population? What are some of these training programs, community colleges, industry, or what?
Yes, there are. The main thing is really going into the trades. And so within the women's program, within the women's prison, they have what they call the track program, which is the trades related apprenticeship coaching program, which provides them the training that they need. So once they release, they're able to enter into an apprenticeship with one of the different unions or one of the different trades. There's also a Braille program that they offer within the prison. We've had individuals who worked for the Braille program while they were incarcerated, and then they came out and were able to get a job with the Washington State Braille system, and doing Braille services for there. Um, and really, that's sadly to say, other than little jobs here or there, those are really the 2 main industries that have really provided pathways for formerly incarcerated individuals to enter back into the workforce. And that's something that we need to change.
Okay. Diane asks, you referenced individual contacts versus touches, and she wants to know, what does like 12,000 touches mean?
Contacts, how many times that we've talked, had some kind of interaction. So contacts, touches, interchangeable terms.
Okay. But there were, I think you said something close to 500 individuals
Yes,
Those 500 had up to 12,000 contacts. Okay.
correct. Yes.
The question next is there any similar program for incarcerated men?
There is not well, there are thousands of programs for men. And that is one reason why if is as successful as they are is because we realize that there are 1,000 programs for men and nothing for women. The criminal justice system is built by men for men. All programming is built by men for men. And then we wonder why women are recidivating at 3 times higher the rate than men. And so that's where IF has found where the gap is, and that's where we're stepping in to meet that gap. So there are similar programs, but there's not a similar program that does what IF does.
Okay. Steve asked, is there an issue with being a felon and employment? Or what are the issues?
Background checks, which is the big, it's background checks, not being able to not being able to pass a background check. And in Seattle, yes, they have the ban the box thing, but you still can't pass the background check. You may get the interview, but you still have to do the background check. And not being able to explain or automatically being counted out because of you had to check yes to that box. That's the problem. And it's not providing us the opportunities. And then also the other issue is if we are provided the opportunity, many times we're brought in at a lower wage, and we're made to feel less than because of the fact that we do have a DLC number behind our name. And so then, we're being forced to take jobs that are really not getting us by, but they're satisfying the need of our probation officers so that they can say that we're employed.
Okay. If I could just follow up, I typed this in, but since you just asked it, I don't know that everybody here knows what you mean when you say the ban the box thing in the city of Seattle. What is that?
What that is employers as well as apartments are no longer allowed to ask, have you been convicted of a felony? So it's supposed to be taken off of applications. Some people have complied, some people have not.
Okay. Okay. The next question, let's see, we've got Diane asked, do you collaborate with the Women in the Trades group?
Yes, we do.
Great. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think we got through the variety of questions there. And we have a couple more minutes. If there's anyone who still has a question they haven't asked for our speaker and they want to do an old-fashioned raise your hand, use the tool at the bottom because we can see her face. We can't see you raising your hand unless you use the little thing at the bottom of the screen. And if not, nope. I think, well, we got through quite a few questions. So thank you very, very much. This was delightful.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
really,
you.
it's great to hear some positive stories about a successful program as we move into the new year. We talk about a lot of complicated things here in this program, and it's just nice to get some good news sometimes. Let's
Thank
see.
you for
And
having me.
people are putting their thanks in the chat. So thank you very much and have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
holiday season.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. So next up is Megan Westfall with the City Attorney's Office. Megan, do you have anything that you need to show on a screen or?
I do not.
Okay. Go for
Okay,
it.
hi everyone. As Katie said, I'm Megan Westfall, most of you know, with the City Attorney's Office. So at the November meeting when we last met, I talked a little bit about the DUI emphasis patrols that were occurring around King County during the holiday season. As we know, with all of the holidays, often people are going to parties, they're drinking, and they're unfortunately making the decision to get behind the wheel of a car. And we know that impaired drivers are incredibly dangerous in our communities. So with that in mind, different law enforcement agencies, my office, all got together and collaborated on doing a bunch of DUI emphasis patrols. This is not a new thing. This happens every year, but I did want to highlight the work that they've done. The last one took place, I think, a week or two after we met in November, and it was incredibly successful. They were out on the roads for 5 hours and arrested over 10 impaired drivers during that time period, which, I would say is a big success. Getting an impaired driver off the road is really just preventing a vehicular assault or vehicular homicide from happening. So with that in mind, there is a second one that's going to be happening shortly here in December, a collaboration again between my office, SPD, Washington State Patrol, and some of the other kind of local jurisdictions, again, happening in a few weeks. And we're really hopeful that it's going to be equally as successful and we'll be able to take some impaired drivers off the road. I also talked about, some of the difficulties and the issues that we have with prosecuting impaired driver cases. Over the last decade or so, we've really just seen a huge uptick in polydrug impaired driving cases. And so that's a case where there's one or more drug present in the impaired driver system. Often alcohol is one of those drugs, but because the other drugs that these drivers are using, we're seeing a lot of meth use, we're seeing a lot of fentanyl use, and just a lot of other drugs they're combining with alcohol, marijuana being a big one too. Those aren't able to be detected through the traditional breath testing method, right? And so officers are now having to turn to getting search warrants to get a blood sample from an individual to determine exactly what substances are impairing their ability to drive. I talked about some of the difficulties we had with, getting warrants and blood samples and stuff. But one thing I neglected to highlight at the last meeting, and I wanted to bring up, just because impaired driving is a big issue year round, but during December especially, is the state toxicology lab is where these results that officers get from blood draws are tested. And this lab, it's down at Park 95, which is where SPD has a lot of offices kind of down in the Soto area. And they perform the drug and alcohol testing for coroners, medical examiners, law enforcement agencies, prosecuting offices if there was requested, the Liquor and Cannabis Board if they need it. And they do it for all 39 counties across Washington. And I just looked up their website the other day. They receive about 16,000 cases per year from referrals from all of those different divisions. And about 60% of those are impaired driving cases. The rest of them are cases that are involving narcotics, or unfortunately, like a case where someone died and the coroner is requesting to see what the toxicology report was. But a good chunk of their work is doing this examination of these blood draw cases. And so, due to just the breadth of their work and really the sheer volume of cases, there is a significant backlog of blood samples that have yet to be tested specifically on these misdemeanor DUI cases. Obviously, they prioritize cases where there's a vehicular assault and they have an impaired driver, or a vehicular homicide with an impaired driver. But, kind of the run-of-the-mill impaired driving cases that we see throughout our community are unfortunately one of the lowest priorities due to this backlog. And so, this is a problem that we've recognized in the city, that's been recognized throughout King County, and quite frankly, recognized statewide. And there is some legislation that's going to be proposed at the next session that would allow for, specifically for blood testing for impaired driving cases in the city of Seattle, for us to be able to have our blood be tested by a private lab. And so we would be able to get those results in a quicker fashion. And we really feel that I saw something in the chat. And so we really feel that this is a good thing for the city of Seattle. It's obviously a good thing for King County. It's a good thing, quite frankly, for all 39 counties throughout the state of Washington, because it would really cut down on the long period of time that we're waiting for results and really speed up the process there. And obviously, the quicker we can get results in these cases, the quicker cases can be adjudicated, which is really crucial for public safety. So we're really hopeful that some sort of iteration of this can pass at the next legislative session. And that's all I really had to talk about tonight. As Katie mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the next NPAC speaker in January is going to be my boss, City Attorney Ann Davison. And she'll be able to really kind of shed some light on all of the work that's done at our office and whatnot. So hopefully people can make that meeting and hear a little bit more from her. But that's all I have. Are there any questions? I saw
We do have
in
a
the
couple in the
real quick.
chat.
Yeah, I saw. So Henry, is that on the city? I don't know. I don't know what the city's legislative agenda is, but I know that my office has been asked to provide feedback on that law. So I would assume that means it's on their agenda, but I can't say for certain. And then have DUI arrests been expedited in regards needing medical professionals to administer testing? So I guess I don't understand that question exactly. So there's a couple things there. So one thing I talked about the last NPAC is the ability for officers now to perform the blood draw. It used to be they had to go to a hospital and they would have to wait to get a nurse at the ER, but Harborview or wherever to come and perform the blood draw. Now we have officers that are trained to do that. So, you know, when an officer makes an arrest, they just call another trained officer to the scene to do that. Is that answering your question, Steve? If it's not, let me know. Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay, anything else?
Could
Yeah.
you follow up on the question about whether or not that blood test or the testing thing is on the agenda and let us know for the next meeting or bring it to the
Yes,
January meeting?
yeah, I will. I quite frankly don't. I don't know much about that of the city's legislative agenda, but I will make a note of that and I will ask around and see what I can find out.
That would be great because if
yeah.
people want to weigh in to support it or to question it,
Absolutely.
that would be the time to do it because the legislature will be getting started.
Definitely. And then I see another question, maybe comment. Brian, is this for me?
I think that is from for the next, I think that's for the captain. I think that's
Okay.
with Rudy's other questions about that whole
Okay.
neighborhood. So
Well, great.
I think we got everything.
Okay,
Cool.
great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday.
Yeah.
We'll see you next month. Now let's see, has Casey arrived yet? He often arrives just in the nick of times and we're running just a bit ahead. So I think what we're going to do, I announced at the beginning that we've had an opportunity to get the crime prevention coordinators here. So I think what we're going to do is switch it around. We'll do Casey after they're doing, and we're going to slip them in for 10 minutes. So let me find them on my screen and highlight them. First, we have Sarah, who is going to be the person with the, oh, hang on a second. I need to remove that for just 1 second. First, I will make you a co-host so that you can show your screen. Okay, you should have that, Sarah. And now spotlight, and now let me find your partner in crime, as they say, Caitlin. There you go. You two are on. Thank you both very much for being here. You have 10 minutes. And you got to unmute.
Hello, let me see if I can get us started. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sarah. Yes.
Wonderful. From the beginning. All right, welcome. What a wonderful winter season we are having. It is quite chilly outside. So this presentation, we're going to talk about some holiday crime prevention tips that my lovely partner in crime, as we like to say, has put together. She worked really hard on these, just to kind of keep everyone mindful of crime does go up in December because we have lots more shopping, lots more people out and about, and we want everyone to stay safe this holiday season. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As always, I'm Sarah Lawson, Northeast Crime Prevention Coordinator, and my partner, Caitlin Yep, does Northwest of the precinct. So starting off, day one, we called them to 12 days of crime prevention because we're cute and adorable like that. We said when ordering gifts for your loved ones, require a signature on delivery of packages. Package theft, I think was noted in the chat, has gone up significantly, and we want to make sure that your packages arrive so that your loved ones can open them on whatever holiday you celebrate. So just kind of make sure that you can add that to when you order it, that our signature is required on delivery.
and just to give a heads up, we're sitting next to each other, so we're gonna try to like mute and then let the other person talk so they don't screech. So hopefully it doesn't screech at any point. But hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin. Yep, I'm the crime prevention coordinator for the Northwest side. So anything west of I-5, I cover. So for day 2, we talk about leaving. When you leave for the holidays, use timers or lights, TVs, or speakers on while you're gone. So if you know, you can get little outlets that you can put a timer on to have it like turn on at a certain time, so it kind of makes it look like you're home. We recommend this for things like lights or like a radio if you have any of those. So it makes it seem like there's activity going on in your home, and then you can have the timer turn it on and then turn it off, so it's not on in the entirety of the time that you're gone, but it just makes it look like you're home. So you have somebody showing that there's activity at your house.
And day 3, if you're going to be out of town for the holidays, perhaps somewhere warm and sunny, we want you to make arrangements for your mail and your newspaper so it doesn't stack up outside your door. And that kind of sends a signal to the nefarious characters in the area that you are not home and your home is ripe for the taking. So just kind of contact USPS, contact your newspaper, put a pause on your mail, and then collect it all back when you're back here in the cold winter that we are experiencing.
Day 4, we suggest when leaving for the holidays, ask a trusted friend, neighbor, or somebody in your neighborhood or block watch group to keep an eye on your home. Opening up that communication with your neighbors and just being able to say, hey, I'm going on vacation. Is there any way you can just make sure you keep an eye on my house? Not necessarily making them have to keep eyes on your house at all times, but if they see something suspicious, that they can call 911 on your behalf, or just kind of keep track of what's going on in your home and keep you updated while you're away on your vacation.
All right, so for day 5, so perhaps you went a little crazy this holiday season and you got mounds and mounds of gifts and you all under the tree or all under the hearth. We recommend that the large displays of the holiday gifts not be visible through your windows and the doors of your home. So maybe put them in kind of an alcove out of sight, or if you're going to be leaving for the day, closing your blinds so they're not quite as visible as well. It is quite the holiday spectacle. It does send that signal to anyone walking by that, oops, there might be a couple of fun things in there for me to grab. So we just want to make yourself even more of a target than you potentially could be.
Day 6, we suggest being suspicious of unexpected sales calls or deliveries and ask for identification. We're going to talk about this a little later too, but scams are high up in the holidays. Everybody has a giving heart and wants to help out as much as they can. But be wary, especially of people showing up to your house or phone calls that you get that you're not prepared for or didn't know that they were coming. Just make sure to ask for identification, or better yet, just don't answer the door if you're not planning on having a visitor show up.
Bringing us into day 7, please be aware that scams that people taking advantage of your generosity. So if you're choosing to donate to any kind of foundation or organization, make sure you're going directly through their website, not through any other third party or Facebook links or Twitter links, anything like that. And we recommend just going directly to the source and just kind of double checking and maybe doing a quick Google search of like the organization's name plus the word scam in Google and seeing if anyone else has had any issues with them. And that's a really great way to kind of verify that your money is going to help good people and it's not going into the pockets of, again, those nefarious actors.
Day 8 kind of bounces off of that again to investigate charities before you're making any donations, especially if somebody comes, either calls you or again shows up at your home. Ask how the funds are being used, and you can do some research on them before you decide to give away any of your hard-earned cash. Again, people like to take advantage, unfortunately, around the holidays. So just being wary, and if something feels off, maybe let the person know, hey, I'm gonna think about it, then call a loved one, talk them through it, and maybe your loved one will say, hey, maybe that does seem a little suspicious. Maybe we should look a little bit more into that. Because sometimes just saying it out loud to yourself or to a loved one can make you start realizing maybe that does seem a little bit off. Because again, we want to make sure that all your hard-earned cash and all the gifts and things that you're buying for your loved ones stay with you and don't end up in somebody else's hands that it shouldn't.
Day 9, as we are out and shopping and we just survived the Black Friday madness, but perhaps you got a couple more gifts to buy before we hit the New Year and the Christmas time. We don't recommend leaving any packages or valuables on the seat of your car. This creates a temptation for thieves. If you have to leave something in your car, lock it in the trunk or put it out of sight. And this is especially important if you're shopping and then you're coming back to your car and then you're going to go back to shopping. We really just want to kind of maybe repark the car, put everything in the trunk and make sure it's locked up tight. That way, again, it doesn't seem like you're sending the signal to others that you've got lots of goodies for them to come steal.
This is perfect for day 10 since Megan already talked about this a little bit earlier. Arrange for an official designated driver for your party so you can make sure that you have somebody that's driving that's not drinking, especially when it comes to any kind of holiday party that people are having. Just plan in advance, talk to whoever you're showing up to the party with, and then definitely make sure that that person's the one that holds the keys, and don't let somebody that's been drinking drive you or your loved ones home.
We coordinated, can't you tell? All right. And so day 11, we don't recommend advertising expensive toys, electronics, or other gifts received after you've opened them up and you've had the joy of being able to have that experience. So compress your large boxes, put them in black garbage bags for pickup. Don't just leave them out on your curb because, again, we're sending that signal that, hey, I just got a brand new laptop and a brand new TV, which may prompt somebody to try to break in when you're, out and about trying to celebrate the holidays even more. We want to make sure that all your goodies that you get stay with you and not somebody else.
And finally, day 12, add any new items to your home inventory. Take photos or videos of all your items of value and make sure to list the make, model, serial number, and other information. This is pretty uncommon. I have to be completely honest. I don't think I have all of my things in an inventory, but it's really helpful to have in the case that you need it. Say that the items get stolen, get lost, or get damaged. You having that information is not only good for insurance purposes, but also, again, if you have to do a police report, having that information beforehand is better than realizing that you needed that information after. So we recommend it, especially after the holidays when getting gifts, to add those items to that list so you can just have it as a created list that's ever growing, and you can keep track of your valuable items, again, in the case that you need to report that and have all that information on hand.
And as always, we are your crime prevention coordinators. As we stated at the beginning of the presentation, I work in Northeast Seattle. Caitlin works in Northwest. We have split the precinct by I-5. But as you could see from this presentation, me and Caitlin work right next to each other. She can wave at me through our mirror. And so if you aren't sure, who do I contact? I don't know who's my crime prevention coordinator. Send us both an email. Send us one an email, and we'll make sure you get where you need to go. But we're always a resource for you, and we wish everyone here a happy holiday season. We hope you stay safe. We hope you stay warm, and especially the warm part, and that you reach out if you need us.
Right. Thank you. I see one question in here from Diane. What about crime prevention for 50% of Seattle who live in apartments or multifamily buildings, not single family homes? Do you have some specialty suggestions there?
A lot of these tips do apply for that as well. So, kind of making sure that when you are, so similar for like if you're getting a bunch of boxes and you're breaking those down at the end of your holiday celebrations, bringing them to your dumpster, putting them all the way in the dumpster, not leaving them around. Because even though you might live in a apartment complex or a multifamily building, you might have some bad actors there that might want to you don't want to send the signal to like, hey, I just got these great TV and I just got this great laptop. Similar to the mail theft is very common in these kind of buildings. I live in an apartment complex. I can tell you all too well. So kind of making friends with your neighbors, and if you're not going to be home during certain times, but you're going to have packages dropped off, have them left with a neighbor, or potentially if it's going to be any kind of Amazon or FedEx or USPS, a lot of times they'll allow you to pick up at a different location, such as their main location or the postal office. That way you make sure that your packages are coming to you and there's no chance of them being stolen before you get a chance to wrap them and give them to your loved ones.
Great. We've got a couple of thank yous in here. Thank you very much.
We do what we can.
And I think we're good to go, unless I see anybody else raise their hand using the thingamajigger at the bottom. Okay, thank you both very much. We appreciate it.
That is a great tip for Tricia. She says she moves her address label from the packages, the receive, and I also don't want that sitting in the recycling room. Awesome advice if you just want to take a little Sharpie and kind of blank it out. There's also specialty stamps that you can do to kind of blank out an address as well. But Patricia, your check will be in the mail. We thank you for sharing that tip.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, both of you. Have a great holiday. We will see you in the new year. Okay, I do not see Casey. He probably got pulled into something, which is not unusual. So, oh, Mary is asking if we could repost the info about collection of warm clothes at the precinct. So I'll put that out there and we'll see if we can get that into the chat from whoever has that information. I don't know if Caitlin or Sarah do. If not, perhaps one of the other SPD folks. Oh, Sarah does. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, she'll put that in the chat. Okay, so I think since Casey will probably slip in whenever, we are going to go ahead and move on to the captain's report. And since she has been so gracious the last couple months when we've had to shorten things just a bit, we give you some extra time this time. Do you have a presentation? Do you want to be a co-host or not?
No, it's all good.
Okay. All right, then I will just put you. Hang on. There you go. You are on. There you are.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, Caitlin and Sarah have been awesome. You know, they're assigned to the precinct now and they work for me. They're not based out of headquarters anymore. So it's been very nice having them full time at the precinct. Okay, so looking at data, it's interesting. All our data is looking pretty good in all categories. They're all trending down. So looking year to date, looking at all the violent crime and all the property crime together, year to date, it's down 2% over last year. And then just looking at the last 28 days, it's down 20%. So all categories are trending down. Rape is still up, but it's way down. Aggravated assault is down 1%. So everything is looking really good. Motor vehicle, which has been up for the last, probably 2 years is down 12% year to date. So all the crime stats there are looking good. One of the categories that's up a little bit, and this is citywide, it's not just North, but shots fired year to date are up 9% in the North Precinct. And then looking at the last 28 days, and I'll explain this number because it sounds worse than it is, it's up 60% in the North Precinct. But if you're looking at the full numbers for the year, the North Precinct has had 165 shots fired in the entire North Precinct. And then 117 of those were confirmed shots fired by either a witness or property damage or shell casings. And then 43 out of that 165 were actually victims that were shot by the suspect, and then 5 were fatal shots. So if you looking at that 60% though, you got to look at the numbers when you're looking at data. So it's up 60% in the last 60 days. What that means though is that the same time last year there were 10 shots fired more in the last 28 days than in 2023. So we had 10 more shots during this 28-day period than we did last year. And a lot of those were kind of down more around the, Sandpoint area, UW, more on the east side of the freeway right now, which is kind of interesting. Magnuson Park, I kind of broke down the data a little bit. Sandpoint area is the only area that's kind of trending up a little more. They've had, compared to last year, they've had 4 more robberies than last year, and 3 more aggravated assaults than last year. We had the one incident about a little over a week ago now, where someone reported that a car with some suspects in it had just shot at a big kind of white van. So the officers had a description of the car. They went down there, they located the car. The van never called in, which is kind of odd, but the officers located the car, got situated, flipped on the lights to pull them over, and they sped away. And because it's a violent crime where they were shooting at someone, they pursued. So there was quite a long pursuit. During that pursuit, the passenger leaned out his window and actually fired at the officers that were pursuing him. So it was quite the dangerous situation for the officers. They didn't get hit. They eventually lost the car. They kind of went down a dead end, turned around, and then went through a construction area, and they lost them. But we later were able to kind of do a stakeout, and because they knew where they lived, and they were able to arrest them. And one of the suspects was like 15. Yeah, so that was kind of a spicy call last week, but they are in custody, and I was hoping Casey, maybe if he comes, I wanted to get an update on their status, because we booked them. So hopefully he shows up. If not, next time we can get an update from him. Because of the kind of the uptick there in Magnuson Park, I did put the mobile precinct down there yesterday. That's going to be down there 24/7 until Friday night. I think I'm going to take it back Friday morning, but there's going to be emphasis patrols down there for 24/7. There'll be 2 officers with the mobile precinct, kind of with the mobile precinct, but also kind of patrolling the area as well. So that'll be down there. Has anyone seen it down there? No? Okay, well, it's down there, so it's kind of hard to miss if you're in the park. It's quite the big thing sitting there. Little update on staffing. I was just talking to Chief Farrar today, and staffing levels right now are still low, but she told me that it's the first time in a long time that we're hiring faster than we're losing. So we're hiring more recruits, we're getting more officers in the academy than we have officers like retiring or going to other agencies. So that's really good news. And her goal is to hire 150 officers just in 2025. And it won't stop there, but that's the goal, to get 150 officers during 2025 out onto the street. So we're looking forward to that. We have the approved lateral bonus right now of $30,000 for any experienced officer that comes to Seattle from another agency. Those guys, they get out on the street a lot faster because they get some extra training and go through kind of a condensed little advanced academy, but they kind of hit the ground running, so they get out there a lot quicker than the younger ones that have to go through all the training. Those take about a year from the time they're hired. And our candidate pool is also a lot bigger, so we're being able to pick from a larger pool of candidates that are testing. So things are kind of trending up, so that's all good news. We have automatic license plate readers now on all the cars. So I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but it's in every car now. So it scans for any stolen car, even if it's parked, it's coming towards you. So anything in the surrounding area, it will read that license plate, and it will tell the officers if it's a stolen car. So we're getting a lot of stolen cars, a lot of occupied too. A lot of them, of course, don't stop, so we can't pursue them, and they flee. But we're still getting recovering quite a few. We're booking now. It's been about, I think it's been a little over a month now where we're able to book misdemeanors again into the King County Jail. During COVID, there was restrictions put on misdemeanors to where we couldn't book them. That's lifted now. We have 100 135 beds for SPD to book into the King County Jail. And I think we're averaging, because we get a report every morning, we're averaging, it hasn't gone over about 85. So we have plenty of beds to book kind of, you know, the problem misdemeanors, not every misdemeanor, but those that really need to get unplugged and booked into the jail. Let's see the finalists. I know we're all waiting to see. We love Chief Rar. We'd love to keep her, but she has grandkids. She's put in her time. She doesn't want to stay forever. So they have the finalists. I think they're down to 3 finalists now. And I was told today that we should know maybe as early as next week who our new chief will be. So we're all excited to find out who that will be. And then let's see, Rudy, you wanted to give me an update on Crown Hill. What's your update?
Well, Captain, you know, we met on, thank you for talking with me tonight. This is a very important matter as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm in denial and desensitized in other neighborhoods, except for when I come home and I see the stuff along Mary Avenue Northwest and Baker Park. So I want to first of all thank you for joining us at the 9/11 meeting at Baker Park with Chief Amy Barden and Officer Cruzad and our groundswell and other neighborhood people who had an interest in making Baker Park a safe park for everybody. And then your suggestions on you looked at that landscape as if you knew landscape. And you, so you know what you know your stuff. So you said, you know, I would prune these trees up and I would clean up this area over here, make sure the playground area looks nice. And these lights, we need the trees cut away from the lights and find out if they're working. And so I took what I learned from you and transformed it, talking with others in the community. And I said, the captain doesn't do the cleanup. She does the suggestions. We call 911 and hopefully we're going to get an officer to respond as needed. We may not get it, but we still have to clean it up. So who wants a bag and a picker? So I started getting neighborhood people involved with cleaning up the litter. After you, I think you're the one that had the unified care team come in, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a big help. Somehow we got parks involved at the same time as the unified care team, and they're looking at each other and they felt a compliment while we were doing other stuff around the dentist office. Crown Hill Safeway, I talked with corporate Safeway and I spoke to one of your sergeants at Third Watch and another officer. They said, whatever you do, get the neighbors to keep calling, tell Safeway management to keep calling, and you may not get an officer when you need it, but at least it gets put into the system and there's data for it. So we got the place looking pretty good. And what's interesting is we get some of the people coming back wanting to set back up, but they notice that it's clean, and we've kind of changed that mindset where they got used to it, and it kind of funked with their addiction a little bit, that this may not be. There's people that really care. Besides, there's people that care. And today Safeway was out there cleaning the parking lot and cleaning up litter around 85th. And I took the blower and cleaned up along the curbway to give that nice curb appeal, and things are looking good. All because of you, Captain Agard. Your number.
No. Yeah,
your Third Watch sergeant over there Northeast, is a great person, and Officer Gatz. So they inspired me to quit the denial and being desensitized by some of this stuff.
Well, you know, Rudy, it's a community effort though, because it took, you guys to call, to be diligent, in calling 911 and contacting us. And it really is a team community effort with police, with unified care team. It takes a team to, clean this up and then keep it from coming back. So they know now that you guys are all paying attention to it. So they don't want to stay there because they don't want to get bugged all the time, because they know now that the community's, all in it together. So it takes a team, Rudy. So good job. Thanks for all the pictures too.
By the way, also I was on Aurora today, and your associates with SPD and others were looking at the light poles about the new technology. And I asked one of them, "Are you City Light? Can you get some lights over there on Mary for us?" But they said, "Ask the captain."
Well, they're looking to do, the CCTV. I think a lot of you guys know that it's in the budget now. And Aurora from 85th to 145th is one of the 3 or 4 places that are going to get those. So they're starting to kind of scope that out and, hopefully get that done by 2025 because the money's there. It was all approved.
Great.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Rudy. Appreciate you.
Captain, one other thing is the neighbors over there on the Northwest Mary have been very helpful as well.
Yes.
Got some emails from them. I mean, they're concerned. I just said, you know what, we got to work together, be team players, and we may not like the way it is right now, but it's a process.
Yeah.
And so thank you very much. That's it. I said I'd keep it short. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
too,
you,
Rudy.
Rudy. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I think that was pretty much all I had. I was going to keep it short tonight. I didn't think I had a lot of time, but we have time for some questions because I know last time we kind of got cut off. So
Somebody was asking, following up on the Magnuson Park. I think Henry was asking if you were referring to some activities near the boat launch in your earlier description of the chase.
No, it was a little more outside on the outside. It wasn't actually in the park.
Okay.
Yeah. We had all the the parties there this summer. That was chaos, and I'm planning for that already so we can avoid it this summer. But that mobile precinct is so big, I have to park it somewhere. I can't just park it like on the street. There really has to be like a good spot for it. So
Yeah.
that's and it's high visibility there, and it makes the park safe. So, and good place for the officers to contact people in the community, and so I think it's a pretty good place for it.
Great. Andy asks, is the goal to have increased officers, new officers, or just a net increase? I mean, I'm not
So
sure.
my goal, and I was just talking to Chief Farr and some other captains, and really the goal is to get more officers so I can get like my community police team back at the precinct. I need to get my resources back in the precinct. I need my community, the outreach team that we used to have. I need to get, my PROACT team back so I can deploy them as needed. Like when we're having a problem, say in Sandpoint, I can deploy it's a PROACT team down there and assign them to that. But we just don't have the amount of officers right now to have those teams. So that is the goal, is to get enough officers back. So 1, we can have more on patrol. And then 2, so we can get our specialty teams back to the precinct and not have, decentralize them because they're all down at headquarters, right? So we need them back in the precincts.
Okay. Let's see. Nancy, I apologize. Nancy had a question she sent to me and I failed to give to you. She follows tweets by beat and has really noted that this just kind of has totally dropped off in the past, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. Is there a reason for that? And will it start back up? Are you familiar with that?
It's not something North Precinct is in charge of. I know that they used to do it more, but I am not sure about that. Caitlin, Sarah, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so we've had some issues with X as a whole. Before, when they originally transferred over, they were going to charge us for every domain that we had, and we have one for every beat in the city of Seattle. So we were going to disregard tweets by beat altogether. It's an automated system that kind of creates the little tweet that lets you know what's going on. So some of the ones when it officially transferred from Twitter to X and they had all the new features, some of the beats didn't come back, and unfortunately, sometimes the actual system just kind of lags a little bit, especially during the winter times. And it's again not by us, it's definitely above our pay grade, even above the captain's pay grade. It's an IT issue. So it's not necessarily something that we're able to fix on our end. We'll pass it along that that the community has noticed that there has been a lag. I do know that there are some there are some beats specifically that don't even work anymore. And I know that community kind of wanted that back, but it ended up being a kind of an issue that we had with X in and of itself, when they transferred owners, I guess what
Yeah.
happened. But yeah.
Okay.
Great. Good. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you knowing about that.
Let's see, we have more of a comment from Rick, who says that he would prefer to know a more efficient path to resolution of issues like the Baker Park takeover, in terms of all the community effort that was required. I don't know if there's any other suggestions you have, or
You know, it's when you get all these different city agencies working together, nothing moves fast, and it takes some doing. I have a really good contact it's called the art team, Lieutenant Jeff Cohagen, and he's excellent. He's the one that usually gets things moving for me. And I think he was our guest here about 3 months ago. He was on here. He's excellent. So yeah, it's very complicated and it takes longer than it should.
okay.
Agree.
Carlo has a comment regarding the Twitter issue. Any comments? And again, I'm not sure you guys can exactly answer this, but maybe you can forward this on. Any thoughts about moving to Blue Sky in place of X or Twitter for the Beats feeds? That platform is really taking off as an alternative or replacement for X and Twitter. So just an FYI.
Yeah.
Blue Sky is, I think it's starting to be talked about a lot. They've gained like about 150 million people in the last month. So
yeah, we actually have to be very careful about what social media apps that we use, as all of the things that we have to put out have to be able to be documented and saved for long periods of time. So like you'll notice we don't have a TikTok as a SPD, but other police departments might. We have a Facebook and we have an Instagram because those things can be archived and saved. And so there'd be a lot of research in terms of our legal team about if we were going to start a new one. And it would have to be able to be archived and saved for, I think it's up to 3 years. So right now, I don't know if we have any plans to expand to Blue Sky.
okay.
Mhm.
Rick has a comment. I think it's more towards the NPAC board. Can we do a recurring NPAC meeting item regarding efficiency gains? For example, tonight's pitch by the prevention coordinators is that a standalone recording that can and will be replayed each PAC each December. I guess what that would go to might be that you have a set of recordings available online at SPD that can be accessed, on demand as someone needs them, so that it's available anytime, 24 hours a day. Is that something that folks have looked at? Crime prevention would be a great thing. Other kinds of domestic abuse prevention. I don't know.
We do have a list of crime prevention videos on the SPD website that were created. Anything kind of video that we create has to go through several layers of legal. It's not something that we're currently exploring, but it is a pretty good idea to make sure that people are able to have access to these tips year round, as they're not just applicable during the holiday season, they're kind of applicable all year long. So potentially that's something that, the department can explore, but there's a lot of kind of legal hoops to jump through, as
Right.
it all has to kind of be approved.
Right. Okay. Let's see. So, Jessica, another incident we recently had was an RV parked in 85th and 14th that we were not able to get to the authorities' attention despite the numerous reports we did to 911. and Find It, Fix It. My neighbors dealt with a lot of trash and people lounging outside our doors for a month, which was really annoying and scary. Is there a way we can be more efficient at reporting and escalating these concerns? Police never showed up. Instead, the RV owners just decided to leave on their own from what it seemed.
Yeah, well, those are the right things to do, the Find It, Fix It for sure. And, you can do it more than once. But if you're not getting any response and it's been there, that's what my project officers do. Mike Cruzan, he can follow up on that and make sure that, it's been reported properly, or go out and take a look at it and do follow up on that. So I would.
Thank you so much. So the problem that we have with Find It, Fix It was that we have about 5 different households that were affected, and we are all in a mailing list where we were communicating what we were doing, and all our tickets from Find It, Fix It, including mine, got closed because there were multiple instances of the same issue being reported. So in overall, nobody knows who got the ticket that eventually was considered. And when it came to police and non-emergency line, the same questions: do they have any weapons? And in many cases, they told us that the police cannot do anything. Number one, because the RV was not abandoned and there were people actually living there. And number two, because it was not a crime in progress. But when we were actually reporting things happening, which my neighbors capture in their raw Ring doorbells, and including exchanges of mysterious origins, I don't know. Whenever we reported those to 911, we never got any follow-up.
Okay. And it sounds like, because we're gonna run out of time. Let's let the captain respond to that. What would they do if they aren't getting the other responses they need?
Well, if Find It, Fix It says that the ticket's closed, that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, they've already sent it out. I mean, it doesn't mean it's over. I think in fact, we were just talking about this at our meeting today, is what people don't get what the follow-up is. Like, the ticket will get closed and they don't see what's happening behind the scene, but it doesn't mean that people aren't still acting on it and that it's been ignored, right? Sarah, I see you wanting to chime in here. You look very eager.
Always, Cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually just want to have some insight in that, because I regularly report things in Lake City and Magnuson Park, and I get the same kind of like, oh, it's been a duplicate. But now there are meetings that happen with the Unified Care team and with their outreach team. And what they do is, although it sucks because you're like, well, I don't know who to follow up with or what, because my report has been closed. It ends up being, I think, today we were looking at one that was like, out of all the reports that happened in the city, like this kind of location was like of 8,000. So there's a long list, and a lot of them have been handled and they're kind of building up. But it's still, if it means it's been closed, it means it's already on somebody's radar and they're just adding your information into that report. And that's great. So if you feel like, after a couple weeks things still aren't happening, feel free to make another report. That way it kind of sends them a little reminder, because in the list of things getting removed, it does take a couple weeks because they do have to outreach and offer housing. It's a long process that SPD isn't a part of. We offer assistance when we can, but like, we are pretty much hands off with the removal of encampments. As far as the criminal activity, you can report, but it does depend on priority and what else is going on in the city. If there happens to be a lot of things else, we typically aren't going to go to what possibly might be a drug deal, but no one can really confirm, as there's like shootings and stabbings and carjackings that we have to respond to. So it's great to report so the data remains accurate, but just keeping in mind that just because it closes out does not mean it's over. It typically means that they have a lot of reports that are already done, and it's now been added to the list to be then triaged for removal.
Is this one of the things that the community service officers might get involved in? We have Jane Dorr on. Is this not her thing? No.
No, it's the Unified Care team. So they also
Okay.
submit Find It, Fix It reports. I'm out there with, we have our CSOs here in the North Precinct. They submit them as well, and they still get the same kind of like, oh, they're closed out. So just because we're behind the scenes and we have SPD within our name, Doesn't necessarily mean that like we get priority, but we do raise safety concerns. So if you truly feel like you're not getting any kind of response or any kind of movement on these RVs or encampments or whatever, feel free to email one of us here at the North Precinct, and we can see if we can find you some answers, or at the very least give you a vague timeline. We can't give you a definite timeline, but kind of give you a, it's due to remove in the next couple weeks. Kind of hang tight, report any suspicious activity, that kind of thing. We're always here to kind of be a resource.
Great. Okay, so folks, you just heard your path. If you do all the things to report it properly and report it at
Email me so you don't bug
and-
Caitlin.
and your neighbors, then crime prevention coordinators would be a great next step. Great. Okay, we are at 8:27. So Captain, do you have any last things? I think everything else that's in here, there's a comment that is something we've kind of already addressed. We
Yeah, I
have
saw-
various.
Someone was asking about 85th to 145th, and that was the that's going to be the location for the CCTV when it's set up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we're
Okay, I think we're at it. At 8:27, I'm not sure. Let's see. Anything about people living within Rick asked if the quotes can't do anything because people are living in it, unquote. Didn't the grants pass court case remove this barrier? Is that true?
I mean, they still can't, they can still, I mean, they still can't park for, more than 72 hours. So you can still put the sticker on it, even though they're living in it. They still can't park there and live there.
Right. And Henry, from Councilmember Moore's office, is also putting in a pitch to say to remember to always include your Seattle City Council member in your concerns so that they can also be working on it. They and their staff will track those and are happy to try and help.
Yeah, I gotta say Kathy Moore and Sam Rivera, they're both excellent. They talk to me all the time. They really work together. They're super hardworking. So you got excellent council members in your districts.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that positive note, I think we are at the end of this meeting. Thank you, Captain. I hope there's a nice, quiet month coming up with, everybody just staying at home and celebrating quietly with, no wild parties or, anything. That would be just lovely.
Yes. And Katie, thank you for everything you do in your board. You're recognized as the best. We're just talking about it again. The best North PAC is the best advisory council in the city, and the chief recognizes that. So thank you for everything you do.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind. We're trying. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, folks, now remember that our next meeting is not the first Wednesday. It's the second Wednesday. It's on January 8th. Hopefully you'll all have a lovely holiday, whatever you do celebrate, if you celebrate anything, and a great New Year's. We'll look forward to peace in the world, and we will see you in the new year. So thank you. If the board members would stay on, that would be great. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.